Nice of you to drop in.
Hello people, I'm the Comic Book Gamer, and today I'm going to be counting down my top 5 favorite Deathstroke fights of all time. Now, Deathstroke has had a lot of awesome fights, but these are my top 5. This is my favorite Deathstroke fights. So, yeah, let's get into it. Number 5, Deathstroke versus Bill Walsh. Now, this fight took place in Deathstroke's first story arc, his first ever solo story arc, which was Full Cycle. And this is the second fight I'm referring to, not the first fight. The first fight was very intense, and Deathstroke was backpedaling. This fight, Deathstroke is more on the offensive, and you find out a lot about Bill Walsh. You find out that, well, first off, he was dressing up as his dead son, Ravager, to just haunt Slade, and he was messing with him throughout this whole story arc. This was a really good story arc, by the way. And this fight was so epic. It's a sword fight between these two, and you learn that this guy is Bill Walsh, who's this guy from Deathstroke's past, and he has caused almost everything bad that has happened in Slade's life since he joined the military. There's been, like, almost everything. The fact that, the fact that Joseph Wilson is deaf is a big part, is his fault. The fact that, Ravager, well, his first son died. You learn that he's the one who recruited Grant Wilson. He's the one who captured Joseph Wilson. You learn that he's behind all these tragedies that have happened in Slade's life that Slade blamed himself for. And a lot of it was Bill Walsh. Bill Walsh was the one who got the wheels rolling with all this. And the reason Bill Walsh was doing this was because Deathstroke had Slade was pretty much the reason he got kicked out of the military. Because Bill Walsh was with Adeline Kane, which is Deathstroke's ex-wife. He came in, he took Addie from Bill Walsh, and then he just humiliated Bill Walsh throughout training and got him flunked out of the special training camp they were in. And so this epic fight, it's a really cool sword fight, with all this great dialogue of him talking about all the revenge and all the bad things he's done for Slade. Slade ends up slitting his throat, stabbing him through the stomach, and then tying him up by his ammo belt and painting with that guy's own blood behind him, saying, "This is your guy," for the government when they come to get him. It was just a really awesome fight. Number 4. Now, number 4 is Deathstroke versus the Justice League in Identity Crisis. Well, a big chunk of the Justice League. He faces off against Zatanna, Green Arrow, Hawkman, Black Canary, Wally West Flash, Kyle Rayner, Green Arrow, Elongated Man, and the Atom. So, yeah, these are some pretty heavy guns. He's got hired by Dr. Light to protect him during the Identity Crisis, because what happened was, without spoiling anything, they think Dr. Light was the one who murdered Ralph Dibny, well, Elongated Man's wife. So, that's who they're going after. And, yeah, he hires Deathstroke to protect him, and this fight really brought Deathstroke more to the mainstream of comics, got a lot more people interested in him. Because this was a big storyline, Deathstroke disappears, and people are like, holy crap, I thought this was the guy who just fought Teen Titans. And he takes out a lot of the Justice League. Now, how he gets taken out in the end was stupid. That's why this is number 4 on the list. Because what happens is Green Arrow stabs an arrow in his empty eye socket, and it's just really stupid. It just gets Slade all pissed off when he does it, and so Slade's like, oh, screw the plan, I'll kill you for that. It was really stupid. Up until then, the fight was really well handled. I can understand Deathstroke getting beat by the Justice League, but the way he did it, the writer, it was really stupid. There could have been so many other ways to do it, but instead he decided that, and it was just really stupid in my opinion. But the fight overall was really awesome. It was so cool to see Deathstroke systematically take down a lot of members of the Justice League. So yeah, that's why it's number 4. Number 3. Now this fight is Deathstroke versus the Teen Titans in Teen Titans East. This fight is so cool. It's by Jeff Johns, and it takes place on the Titans Island. It's really cool. It's where Deathstroke is fighting Donna Troy, Nightwing, Jericho, aka his son, Rose Wilson, his daughter, Batgirl, Cassandra Cain Batgirl. So yeah, this is the best Batgirl. Not my favorite, but the best fighting-wise. And yeah, this fight is really epic. Deathstroke, it takes place in the mind of Deathstroke, so you're hearing everything he's saying. He's just talking about, he's saying all this crap to them, but he's saying in his mind, bunch of it, it's just to get them off balance. He doesn't really care about what he's saying. He's just saying it to get them off balance. He's not like, oh, because he says he's going to kill him, but he doesn't really mean it. He's just saying it to get him off balance. And it's really cool. He even states in here that the kids always make mistake of trying to go hand to hand with him. He says that he could keep it up all day, and it's really, really cool to see him take down all these guys. Also, he's doing it while not looking at Joseph Wilson, not even looking in his direction, because if he looks him in the eye, Joseph Wilson can take control of him. So he's doing all this while looking at the ground for a good portion of the fight, because otherwise Jericho, if you didn't know, is his son, and he can take control of someone's body by looking them in the eye. And so Deathstroke has to look down at the ground for a good portion of the fight, and it's just really cool. It ends with Deathstroke having to flee because a lot of the other Titans come after him. Because during the fight, it was some of Deathstroke's Titans versus some of the other Titans, and then it was Deathstroke versus who I mentioned previously, but his Titans end up losing, and so everyone converges on Deathstroke. He ends up beating up a bunch of them and then fleeing, but during the fight, it's really cool to see him use everyone against each other. It was just so cool. He'll use, what was that? I think it was Superboy, who fires heat vision and uses it to hit, I don't remember who it was, Wonder Girl or something, and it was just really cool. And when people throw batarangs, he'll dodge them, make them hit someone else. He redirected Rose's sword to hit Batgirl. It's just really awesome to see him, how he fights. This really was a good showing of how he fights. I didn't really care for how he ran away, but it was a really awesome fight, and I highly recommend you guys check it out. Number 2. Now, number 2 and number 1 are very close, but they're at those positions for a reason. So yeah, number 2 is Deathstroke versus Green Arrow and Black Canary. This fight was a long time coming because Deathstroke was getting revenge for the fight I mentioned previously, which was Deathstroke in the Identity Crisis fight, where Green Arrow stabbed an arrow in his empty eye socket, and a fight that happened previously where Deathstroke got captured intentionally by Green Arrow to get thrown in prison so that way he could help Constantine Drakon escape from prison. And yeah, so he needed to restore his reputation for the fight that I just mentioned because, he intentionally got captured by Green Arrow. It looked like he got outsmarted and everything. In the fight before that, he needed revenge for what happened with his empty eye socket. So yeah, now he's getting revenge for that, and this fight is awesome. What happens is, it's Green Arrow's son, the female Speedy, and Black Canary and Green Arrow, but then Constantine Drakon goes and fights the Oliver's kid and the female Speedy, and then it's Black Canary versus Green Arrow. This fight is so good. Deathstroke is there to confront them, and Green Arrow says, because you're inside the mind of Green Arrow, and he says, the man who does not need any time to plan has planned out everything. So that explains it right there, and it's really cool because this whole story arc was about Green Arrow reinventing himself, making himself better, because previously, before this, Green Arrow was a great archer, but when it came to everything else, he was so-so. He was an okay brawler, and he wasn't a very good strategist, but after Road to Jericho, he really improved himself. He got training and everything, and he was a lot better. And so this fight is really, Deathstroke's just devastating them, destroying them, and then Green Arrow's like, I just have to go off the cuff. I can't have a plan. If you have a plan, he knows it. So he just goes crazy, firing explosive arrows that could kill him and Black Canary. And Deathstroke obviously didn't expect that, but then that only gets him so far. That stalls him for a minute or two at most. And then Deathstroke delivers my favorite Deathstroke quote of all time, which is, "You made your point. You swung back hard, but let's not forget who and what I am. That I could end this at any time, and that time is now." Now that is just awesome. That is my favorite Deathstroke quote of all time. It is so good. And this fight was just so awesome. So when he says that quote, he's got Green Arrow's quiver, and he's got a knife in Black Canary's mouth. So yeah, it's over. But then the Justice League comes in, and that's when Deathstroke throws down a kryptonite smoke grenade, and then escapes. This book was written by Judd Winnick, who to me writes the best villain Deathstroke, because generally Deathstroke is depicted as an anti-hero, and that's how I prefer him, but as a villain, he's a really cool villain as well, but a lot of people easily screw him up. Judd Winnick did a fantastic job with this. It made Deathstroke, he's the best at writing Deathstroke as a villain. He made Deathstroke an awesome villain. So yeah, I highly recommend you guys check out this fight as well, and all the fights on this list. Number 1 is Deathstroke versus Batman in the City of Assassins storyline. This fight we were waiting for it because Deathstroke went to Gotham, and I was just like, okay, when's this fight gonna happen? It has to happen soon. I can't wait. And it did, and it's just so awesome. The fight is amazing. It takes place on the ledges of Gotham with all these gargoyles and everything, and they're just constantly like falling, sort of like the Phantom Menace fight in episode 1, to where they're fighting on the ledges and they keep falling, sort of like that, except in Gotham City. And it's so awesome. The dialogue here is great, the fight is great, the art is great, everything about this fight. And Deathstroke, like I said previously, that was my favorite Deathstroke quote. This is my second favorite Deathstroke quote. And to me, he explains here why Batman should never be able to beat Deathstroke. And what he says is, you're good, Batman, but you're just an ordinary man. I've been enhanced, I'm stronger, faster, and far more vicious. You've trained yourself to fight, I've trained myself to kill. And should it come down to it, Batman, if I have to kill you to get what I want, well, there will be one more angel looking to win his wings, and Gotham will then sink into its slump hole that much faster. And he's saying this while pounding on Batman's face, and just leaves him there, beaten and battered on a ledge. And then Batman ends up coming back and doing a surprise attack on Deathstroke, and then Deathstroke just kicks him into a bookshelf, which knocks him out. This fight was so good and perfect. It was the perfect fight, and we're about to sort of get a recreation of that in the new Deathstroke storyline, because the next issue, issue 5, Deathstroke is going to be fighting Batman, and I can't wait to see how that turns out. Hopefully it'll be kicking out a spot on my top 5 list, because if it's anything like this fight, it'll be amazing. This fight is just so good. Like I said, the dialogue, and that was just a part of the dialogue, everything's great. There's blood flying everywhere, and that explains to me why Deathstroke should always beat Batman. Batman, what's so cool about him is he's an ordinary man. Deathstroke is not. So that to me, it defeats the purpose if Batman could beat him, because it's like, he's an ordinary man. He should not be able to beat Deathstroke, and like Deathstroke said, he's trained himself to kill. Should it come down to it, if Batman gets in his way, it's not going to be pretty. This fight was amazing, and again, I highly recommend you guys check out all these fights, and I mentioned all the storylines, so you can search them up. They're really good. Great storylines for all of them, and great fights for all of them. So yeah, please let me know in the comments below what are your guys' favorite Deathstroke fights, if you have any, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like.